The words landed between them like lightning, shattering the fragile quiet. Emma froze. For a moment she thought she had misheard him, but the look in Daniel's eyes, raw, unguarded, left no room for doubt. Her heart began to pound so hard. She thought he might hear it. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice unsteady. "You can't, don't say that." But he only shook his head, his eyes never leaving hers. "I have to. I've carried this for years. Every holiday, every dinner, every time I saw you smile at him. And I had to pretend. Pretend I didn't feel it. Pretend it didn't matter. But it does, Emma. It matters more than I can explain." Emma rose abruptly, her chair scraping against the wooden floor. She needed distance, space, anything to escape the intensity of his words. She paced to the window, staring out into the rain as her chest tightened. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She gripped the curtain edge, her knuckles pale. "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" she whispered. "Do you know what this could do?" Daniel stood slowly, but he didn't move closer. He stayed a respectful distance away, his voice gentle. I know it's wrong. Believe me, I've told myself 1,000 times to bury it, to keep pretending. But every time I see you, it gets harder. And tonight, with just the two of us here, Emma, I couldn't hold it in anymore." She turned to face him, her eyes burning. "Mark trusts you. He trusts me." How can we?" Her voice broke. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Because sometimes the heart doesn't care about trust or rules. It just wants." The simplicity of the word, wants, cut through her. Because deep down, in some corner of her she hadn't dared to acknowledge, she understood. She felt it too, the unspoken pull, the way his presence filled the room, the way her body betrayed her with every racing heartbeat. And that terrified her. Emma shook her head, pressing her palms against her temples. No, this isn't fair. You can't put this on me." "I'm not asking you for anything," Daniel said quickly, his voice urgent but soft. "I don't expect you to feel the same. I just needed you to know. I couldn't keep lying not to you, not to myself." His words cracked something inside her. Emma wanted to scream, to cry, to demand he take it back. But when she met his eyes again, she saw nothing but truth there, truth that had been hidden in stolen glances and quiet silences for years. And what frightened her most was not his confession. It was the small, undeniable part of her that wanted to hear it. The storm raged louder, thunder rumbling in the distance. Emma sank onto the edge of the couch, her body trembling. Daniel remained standing, as though unsure if he should move closer or leave altogether. "I thought I knew you," she whispered, her eyes fixed on the floor. "All these years I thought I knew who you were. Mark's loyal friend. Safe, steady, and now..." She trailed off, unable to finish. Daniel's voice was hoarse. "I'm still that man, Emma, but I'm also the man who..." He stopped himself, swallowing hard. "The man who fell for you when he shouldn't have." Her breath hitched. He took a step closer, then paused, his restraint palpable. "I would never hurt you. Or Mark. That's why I kept it buried. But I can't erase it. And tonight, seeing you here, alone..." It was too much. Emma's mind spun. Images flashed, dinners where Daniel had made her laugh, moments when his gaze lingered across the table, times she had dismissed the flutter in her chest as nothing. Had she been blind all this time? Or had she simply not wanted to see? Tears stung her eyes. "You shouldn't have told me," she whispered. "Now I'll never be able to forget." Daniel's face tightened with pain. "I'm sorry, I just couldn't carry it anymore. For a long moment neither spoke. The only sound was the storm outside, hammering against the house as if urging them to break too. Emma's hands trembled in her lap. Her loyalty to Mark screamed at her to end this, to shut the door on whatever had just been opened. But her heart, reckless and unsteady, whispered something else, something dangerous, that she wanted to know what it would feel like to step closer, that she wanted to hear Daniel say her name again in that low, aching tone, that she wanted, for just one moment, to stop being Mark's wife and simply be Emma the woman. Daniel saw. The thought alone made her chest ache with guilt. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if darkness could erase the truth now burning between them. When she opened them again, Daniel was watching her with an expression she couldn't name: longing, regret, love all tangled into one. "Emma," he whispered, "I'll go. I shouldn't have said anything. But please, don't hate me for it." Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him she didn't hate him. That part of her, shamefully, felt seen for the first time in years. But she bit down on the words, afraid of what they meant. Instead, she turned her face away, whispering only, "I don't know what to think anymore." And that was the truest thing she had ever said. The door clicked shut behind Daniel, leaving Emma alone in the quiet storm of her thoughts. For a long while, she stood frozen in the hallway, her hand still resting against the doorframe as if her body hadn't yet realized he was gone. The rain outside roared louder, rushing against the windows like 1,000 beating hearts. But inside, the silence was deafening. Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. She pressed her back against the door, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor, her head cradled in her hands. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Daniel, Mark's friend, the man she thought she knew so well. And yet tonight, in the space of a single conversation, he had shown her a side of himself she had never seen. A side that unsettled her, drew her in, and left her trembling with a mix of fear and something dangerously close to longing. Emma closed her eyes, trying to steady her heartbeat. She should feel angry, she told herself. She should feel betrayed on Mark's behalf. But the truth, uncomfortable, undeniable, was that anger wasn't what consumed her. What consumed her was the memory of Daniel's eyes when he confessed. The raw honesty, the quiet ache, the way he said her name, like it meant more than just a word. She buried her face in her hands. What am I doing? The hours crawled by, but sleep refused to come. Emma lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the storm outside finally fading into a soft drizzle. The world seemed calmer now. But inside, she was restless. Her mind spun back through years of memories. Daniel at their wedding, standing beside Mark with a grin too wide to be anything but genuine. Daniel fixing the fence last summer, sweat glistening on his forehead, laughing when she brought him lemonade. Daniel at Christmas, quietly slipping gifts under the tree before anyone noticed. And then tonight, Daniel, his voice rough with truth, saying he had always felt more. Had she missed the signs all along? Or had she simply refused to see them because it was easier that way? Emma turned onto her side, hugging the pillow. She thought of Mark's steady, practical Mark, who trusted Daniel like a brother. He had no idea of the storm brewing beneath the surface of their friendship, of the words that had been spoken tonight. Her stomach twisted with guilt. She hadn't done anything wrong, not really. But the fact that her heart was even wavering felt like a betrayal in itself. She whispered into the dark, as though admitting it might release the weight from her chest. I don't know who I am anymore. The next morning, Emma went about, her routine in a daze. She brewed coffee, but the taste felt hollow. She folded laundry, but her hands trembled on the fabric. Every little thing reminded her of the night before: the couch where they had sat, the kitchen counter where his eyes had lingered, The door where she had watched him walk away by noon. She could no longer pretend. She needed clarity. Against her better judgment, she texted Daniel. Just one simple line. "Are you okay?" She stared at the screen, her heart pounding, regretting it the moment it was sent. But within minutes, his reply came. "I'm sorry for last night. I never should have said anything. I'll understand if you never want to see me again." Her throat tightened. She read the words over and over, her fingers hovering above the keyboard. Finally, she typed back. "I just need to understand." Why now? Why tell me? This time, it took him longer to reply. She imagined him staring at his phone, debating. When his answer finally appeared, it was both simple and devastating. "Because pretending doesn't make it go away." Emma set the phone down, her pulse racing. Pretending. How many things in her own marriage had she been pretending? Pretending she was content with the distance Mark often created with his work. Pretending the quiet spaces between them didn't ache. Pretending she didn't notice how much more alive she felt when Daniel was near. Her chest tightened with guilt. Stop it, Emma. Don't even think it. And yet, she couldn't stop. Later that evening, the knock came again. Soft. Hesitant. Emma froze in the kitchen, her hands stilling over the dishes. She knew, even before she opened the door, who it would be. Daniel. He stood there, not in the storm this time, but in the cool quiet of night. His expression was heavy, his eyes shadowed with conflict. "I shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "Then why are you?" she whispered. His jaw worked as though the words hurt to speak. "Because I couldn't let last night be the last thing between us. I needed to know. Do you hate me?" Her heart broke at the vulnerability in his voice. She shook her head. Slowly. "No, Daniel, I don't hate you." Something flickered in his eyes. Relief. Longing. Pain all tangled together. He stepped inside, careful, cautious, as though one wrong move could shatter them both. Emma always believed she understood the people around her. Her husband Mark had been her partner for nearly 10 years. She knew the way he took his coffee black with 2 sugars, the way his voice softened when he was tired, and the way he always left his briefcase by the door instead of in his office upstairs. Their life together had its routines, its familiar patterns, its comfortable silences. And then there was Daniel. Daniel had been a fixture in their lives almost as long as she had known Mark. He was Mark's closest friend, the kind of man who never missed a birthday, who stopped by to help if their car broke down or the fence needed fixing. Emma had always liked him in that safe, distant way one likes a family friend. Polite, reliable, predictable. At least, that was what she thought. That evening in late October began like any other. The sun had already slipped behind the horizon, leaving the neighborhood bathed in the orange glow of streetlights. The trees outside swayed restlessly, shedding golden leaves that scattered across the driveway. Inside, Emma curled up on the couch with a blanket, a steaming mug of chamomile tea in her hands. Mark had flown out that afternoon for an urgent business trip to Chicago. She had kissed him at the airport, waved him off, and returned home with the heavy quietness that always followed his departures. She never minded being alone, sometimes she even welcomed it. But that evening felt unusually still, almost charged, as though the air itself was waiting for something. She was halfway through a book when the doorbell rang. Emma startled, nearly spilling her tea. It was unusual for anyone to stop by unannounced, especially on a rainy evening like this. She placed her mug down carefully, smoothed the blanket off her lap, and went to the door. When she opened it, her breath caught. Daniel? He stood there in the misty drizzle, his dark jacket damp at the shoulders, a few strands of hair clinging to his forehead. He wasn't smiling in the casual, effortless way he usually did at gatherings. Instead, his expression was soft, almost hesitant, as though he wasn't sure if he should have come. In his hand, he held a plain envelope. "Hey," he said, his voice warm but low. "Sorry to drop by unannounced. Mark asked me to bring this over. Something for his trip tomorrow." Emma blinked. "Oh, of course, come in. You must be freezing." Daniel stepped inside, brushing a hand through his damp hair. His presence filled the room in a way she hadn't noticed before. Tall, steady, carrying a quiet gravity that made the small space feel somehow smaller. Emma shut the door and turned to him. "I wasn't expecting anyone. You want some coffee? Tea?" He gave her that familiar half-smile. "Coffee sounds good if you don't mind." She moved into the kitchen, her heart oddly restless. Why was she nervous? This was Daniel, the man she'd known for years, the man who had once fixed their broken sink without being asked, who teased Mark mercilessly about his terrible golf swing. There was nothing unusual about him stopping by, and yet, tonight felt different. As the coffee brewed, she stole a glance at him. He was standing near the window, looking out at the rain. His shoulders were broad beneath the damp jacket, his profile sharp in the dim light. There was a stillness about him, a kind of thoughtful weight that made her pause. When she handed him the mug, their fingers brushed. It was such a small thing, but her heart stumbled in her chest. She quickly pulled her hand back, pretending to busy herself with tidying the counter. Daniel took a slow sip of the coffee, his eyes meeting hers. "You're alone tonight?" "Yes," Emma replied, her voice softer than she intended. "Mark won't be back until Monday." He nodded, as if weighing the words. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Not awkward, but charged. Like the air before a storm. Emma sat down across from him, searching for something safe to say. "How have you been? Work still keeping you busy?" He chuckled, but it wasn't his usual light-hearted laugh. "Busy, yes. But sometimes I wonder what I'm working for." His eyes flickered to hers, and for the first time, she noticed the weariness there. Not just the tiredness of long hours, but something deeper, more personal. She tilted her head. "That doesn't sound like you. You're usually the one reminding Mark to slow down, to enjoy things." Daniel smiled faintly, but it didn't reach. His eyes. "Maybe I've been reminding myself too." Emma's chest tightened. She had never seen him this way, unguarded, thoughtful, almost vulnerable. It was unsettling, as if the man she thought she knew was quietly unraveling before her. The rain outside thickened, drumming against the glass. Emma leaned back, trying to shake the strange feeling creeping into her heart. This was Daniel. She reminded herself. She knew him. She had always known him. And yet, why did it suddenly feel like she didn't? The conversation drifted easily. At first, they reminisced about old barbecues. Mark's disastrous attempt to fix the deck last summer. The neighborhood kids who still came by asking if Daniel would join their basketball games. But beneath the laughter, Emma sensed something else lingering, like a shadow at the edge of the room. Every time Daniel looked at her, his gaze seemed to linger a little too long. Not inappropriate, not overt, but present, intentional. And she felt it. Emma found herself noticing things she had never paid attention to before. The roughness of his hands as he held the coffee cup. The slight crease between his brows when he listened intently. The way his voice lowered when he said her name. It unnerved her. At one point, she stood to refill their cups, and when she placed his back on the table, their hands touched again. This time, neither of them pulled away immediately. It lasted only a second. But that second felt like a spark. Emma quickly looked down, her cheeks warm. She told herself she was imagining it, that it was just the quiet of the evening playing tricks on her. Still, when she sat back down, she could feel her pulse racing. Daniel broke the silence first. You know, Emma, I don't think we've ever really talked. Just the two of us. She blinked. We've talked plenty. Not like this, he said gently. Usually, it's at a party or Mark's around. Tonight feels different. Emma swallowed, her throat dry. She wanted to dismiss it, to laugh it off. But the truth was, he was right. Tonight did feel different. The rain outside continued, steady and relentless, as if the world had decided to hold its breath and watch. And Emma couldn't shake the thought that the man across from her, the man she had always thought she knew, suddenly felt like someone entirely new. Someone who made her heart beat faster. Someone who made her wonder what else she didn't know. She tried to ground herself in the ordinary. She asked about his family, about the book he had been reading, about the project at work he once mentioned. But no matter what they spoke of, the undercurrent remained. It was in the way he leaned forward when she talked. It was in the way his voice softened when he said her name. It was in the way silence between them no longer felt empty, but full. By the time the clock on the mantel struck 9, Emma realized she had lost track of time entirely. What was supposed to be a quick visit had stretched into hours. And still, she didn't want him to leave. The realization shook her. Emma rose to clear the mugs, needing the movement to steady herself. She carried them into the kitchen, her mind a whirl of thoughts she couldn't quite hold still. When she turned back, Daniel was standing in the doorway, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. His eyes seemed darker than usual, searching, as though he was about to say something important. Emma's breath caught, and in that charged silence, she realized the truth she had been avoiding all evening. She no longer saw Daniel the way she once had, and that terrified her. The storm outside had gathered strength. Rain lashed against the windows in steady sheets, and wind rattled the branches of the maple tree by the driveway. Inside, the house was warm, but Emma felt a chill crawling up her arms as though the storm had seeped into her veins. Daniel sat across from her, his coffee untouched now, his hands clasped tightly together. The quiet between them had shifted no longer the easy silence of friends, but something denser, heavier, impossible to ignore. Emma's heart thudded unevenly. She tried to steady her breathing, that every glance Daniel gave her seemed to unravel the calm she was clinging to. Finally, he spoke. His voice was lower than before, rough at the edges, as though each word cost him something. Emma, I need to tell you something, and I don't know if it's the right thing, but if I keep it in any longer, I think it'll eat me alive. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She simply stared at him, waiting, bracing. Daniel exhaled, his hands running through his hair, damp strands falling back onto his forehead. He looked both determined and broken, as though he had fought with himself 1,000 times before landing here. I know I shouldn't, he said finally. Mark is my friend. He's been like a brother to me. But the truth is, Emma, you've never just been Mark's wife to me. You've always been more.